Ravi was a single father who lived in a small town with his 10-year-old son, Aaron. Life had not been kind to him. His wife had passed away when Aaron was just a baby, and since then, Ravi had taken care of everything alone. He worked as a car mechanic, earning just enough to buy food and pay rent for the small room where they lived. Every morning, he woke up early, made breakfast for Aaron, and then went to the workshop. He spent long hours fixing broken cars, sometimes working late into the night, his hands covered in grease and oil. Ravi never complained. He believed hard work would someday make life better for his son. Aaron was his world, and he wanted to give him a safe and happy home. But their small rented room was not enough. During the rainy season, water leaked from the roof. In winter, the cold wind passed through the thin walls, and in summer, the heat became unbearable. Aaron often asked, "Papa, when will we have our own house?" Ravi would smile and say, "Soon, my boy. One day we will." One afternoon, after finishing work, Ravi walked through the town market. He stopped near the town office to buy a cup of tea from an old stall. As he waited, he noticed a small poster on the notice board outside the office. The paper was old and the ink had faded, but he could still read the words. Abandoned house for sale, price $30, located near Forest Road. Buyer must repair and maintain. Ravi blinked in surprise. He read it again to be sure. $30 for a house? That sounded impossible. Even a single room in town cost much more than that. He looked at the date on the poster. It was posted 3 months ago, but no one had taken it. He asked the tea seller about it. The man shook his head and said, "That house is bad news. It's falling apart. No one wants it." "Some say it's haunted," Ravi laughed softly. "Haunted or not, it's still a house." The tea seller looked at him with pity. "You will waste your money. The place is broken. The roof has holes. The walls are cracked. Even the doors are missing," but Ravi was thinking differently. He was a mechanic, used to fixing things that others threw away. He believed that with hard work, anything could be made useful again. He thought, if I can fix old cars, I can fix an old house. That evening, he took a long walk to the address written on the notice. The road became narrow and empty as he reached the forest side. The sun was setting, painting the sky orange and red. When he finally saw the house, he stopped. It was exactly as people had said. The house looked tired and lonely. The paint had peeled off, the wooden gate was half broken, and the grass had grown wild around it. One window was cracked and another was missing. The roof looked weak and one corner of the house had collapsed slightly. But Ravi did not see only the broken parts. He noticed the strong stone walls beneath the dirt, the wide front porch, and the large backyard that could be turned into a garden. He walked through the dusty rooms, looking around carefully. The floor creaked under his feet and cobwebs hung from the ceiling. Old furniture lay scattered everywhere, covered in dust. But the air was calm. It did not feel haunted to him. It felt forgotten, like something waiting for love again. He smiled to himself and whispered, "You will be home again." The next morning, he went to the town office. A middle-aged officer sat behind the desk, surprised to see someone asking about the old house. "You really want to buy that place?" the man asked. "No one has shown interest in months," Ravi nodded. "Yes, I want to buy it. I can fix it." The officer looked at him for a moment, then pulled out a file and said, "All right, if you are sure. You just need to pay $30 and sign this paper. But remember, once you buy it, it's your responsibility. The town will not help with repairs." Ravi took out his wallet. He had saved exactly $30 for emergencies, but he did not hesitate. He placed the money on the table and signed the paper. The officer stamped the document and handed him the key. "It's yours now. Good luck." When Ravi returned home, Aaron was sitting on the floor doing homework. Ravi placed the key in front of him and said, "We have our own house now." Aaron looked up, surprised. "Really, Papa? We have a house." "Yes, it needs work, but it's ours," Ravi said proudly. Aaron's face lit up with excitement. He ran to hug his father. "Can we go see it now?" Ravi smiled. "Tomorrow after school, we will go together." The next day, after picking Aaron up, they took a small bus to the edge of the town and walked the rest of the way. When they reached the house, Aaron stopped and stared. "Papa, this place looks old. The roof is broken." "Are you sure we can live here?" Ravi put his hand on his son's shoulder. "It's not bad. It just needs some fixing. You'll see." They stepped inside. The floor was covered with dust and spiders had made webs on the walls. Sunlight came through the broken windows, showing floating dust in the air. Aaron coughed and covered his nose. "It smells funny," Ravi laughed. "That's just old air. Once we clean it, it will smell nice." Together they opened the windows to let in fresh air. Ravi found an old broom and started sweeping, while Aaron picked up fallen wood pieces. They worked until evening. By the time the sun set, they had cleared the main room. It still looked old, but it already felt different. They spread 2 sleeping bags on the floor and had simple dinner from a lunchbox. Ravi looked around and smiled. "See, Aaron, it already feels like a home." Aaron smiled back. "It's big, I like it. Can we paint the walls blue?" "Of course we can," Ravi said, laughing. "We'll make it just how you like." That night they lay down under the creaking roof, listening to the wind outside. The stars shone through the open window, and for the first time in a long while Ravi felt peace. He had nothing left in his pocket, but he had a dream and hope in his heart. Before sleeping, Aaron whispered, "Thank you, Papa." Ravi turned to him and said, "One day you'll understand, son. Even an old house can hold new dreams." He closed his eyes, not knowing that deep within the walls and floor of this broken home, something hidden for many years was waiting to be found. It was something that would soon change their lives forever. The next morning, Ravi woke up early. The air inside the old house was cool and fresh. The sun came through the broken window, lighting up the dusty walls. Aaron was still asleep beside him, wrapped in the sleeping bag. Ravi looked around and smiled. The house was silent except for the sound of birds outside. He got up quietly and stepped outside. The grass in the garden was high, almost reaching his knees. There were broken flower pots near the porch and a rusty old water pump beside the wall. Ravi pressed the handle, and to his surprise, water came out in a thin stream. He laughed softly and said, "Still alive, old friend." After washing his face, he made a small breakfast using the gas stove they had brought from the old room. When Aaron woke up, he yawned and looked around. "Papa, did we really sleep here all night?" Ravi nodded. "Yes, and we are still fine. See, nothing scary happened." Aaron smiled and ate his bread. "I like it here. It feels peaceful." That day they began cleaning the rest of the house. Ravi opened the doors to the other rooms, and together they explored each one. There was a small kitchen, 2 bedrooms, and a large living room with an old fireplace. Everything was covered in dust, but Ravi could see that the house had been strong once. The wood on the floor was still good in some places, and the stone walls had not cracked deeply. They found old furniture lying around. There was a broken chair, a wooden table with missing legs, and a large cupboard filled with empty jars. Aaron opened one of the drawers and found some old coins covered in dirt. He showed them to Ravi. "Papa, look, someone left coins here." Ravi took them and smiled. "These are not worth much, son, but they are still nice to keep." They kept cleaning till afternoon. The sun was high and both were sweating. Ravi stopped and said, "Let's take a break." They sat outside on the porch drinking water. Aaron looked at the forest behind the house. The tall trees moved slowly with the wind. "It's quiet here," he said. "Not like the town," Ravi nodded. "Yes, no noise, no rush, just nature." After resting, they went back inside to check the rooms upstairs. The wooden stairs creaked with every step. Aaron held his father's hand tightly. "Be careful, Papa." "I will," Ravi said, smiling. The upper floor had 2 rooms. One room had a broken window and the other was locked. Ravi tried turning the handle, but it did not move. "Strange," he said. "Why would someone lock this?" He looked around and found an old iron rod. Using it as a lever, he pushed hard near the handle until the lock broke. The door opened slowly, making a long creaking sound. The room inside was dark. Dust floated in the sunlight coming through a small window. It looked untouched for many years. There were boxes stacked in one corner, covered with old cloth. A large wardrobe stood near the wall, its mirror cracked. Aaron stepped inside carefully. "Papa, what is this place?" "I don't know," Ravi said. "Maybe it belonged to the last owner." He lifted one of the cloths and opened a wooden box. Inside were old papers, books, and some letters tied with a red ribbon. The papers had strange handwriting that Ravi could not read properly. He found a photograph of a man standing in front of the same house, looking proud. Aaron looked at the picture. He looked serious. Ravi smiled. He was probably the first owner. While Ravi was looking through the papers, Aaron went near the wall. He noticed something unusual behind the wardrobe. There was a small space that looked different from the rest of the wall. It was slightly raised like a hidden door. "Papa, look here," Aaron said. The wall looked strange. Ravi walked over and touched it. The wallpaper was loose, and when he peeled a part of it, he found a small wooden door behind it. It was only about 2 feet high, like a crawlspace door. It had a tiny handle made of metal. Ravi frowned. I didn't see this before. He pulled the handle, but the door didn't open easily. It was stuck from years of not being used. He took a screwdriver from his tool bag and carefully pried it open. After some effort, the door moved with a dry squeak. Dust came out as he opened it wider. Behind the small door was a dark tunnel leading into the wall. It looked narrow, but big enough for a child to crawl through. Aaron's eyes widened with curiosity. Can I go in? Ravi shook his head. No, not yet. We don't know what's inside. It could be unsafe. He took a flashlight from his bag and shone it inside. The light showed wooden beams and The morning light touched the waves softly. Ravi opened his eyes as the sound of the sea reached his ears. It was his 4th day on the island. He was no longer the same man who had arrived with a backpack and easy dreams. His face was darker from the sun, his hands rough from work, and his clothes torn at the edges. But his spirit was alive. He had learned how to survive, and now he was learning how to live. He stood near his small fire, warming his hands. The smell of roasted crab filled the air. He had caught it early that morning near the rocks. It was not much, but it gave him strength. He looked around at the island. The trees stood tall, the sea calm, and the wind soft. It almost looked peaceful again, as if the storm had never happened. But Ravi knew the truth. Nature could change in moments, and he had to stay ready. After eating, he decided to explore the far side of the island again. The day before, he had found strange stone circles and a rusty knife near the cliffs. He wanted to see if there was more to discover. He took his stick and the knife tied to his waist and started walking through the forest. The path was rough with twisted roots and hanging vines. The air was warm and insects buzzed around him. He moved slowly, marking the trees with small cuts so he could find his way back. Birds called from above and small animals ran between the bushes. The island was alive with sound, but Ravi felt alone. After some time, he reached the cliff area again. The rocks were gray and sharp, and waves crashed far below. He looked at the strange circle of stones he had seen before. Now in the daylight, he noticed something new. On one of the large stones there were markings, simple lines and shapes that looked man-made. They were old and faded, but they told him that someone had lived or visited this island long ago. He brushed away the moss and saw what looked like symbols of fish, trees, and the sun. Maybe ancient people came here, he thought. The idea gave him both fear and hope. If people had been here before, there might be more remains, maybe something useful. He searched around and found pieces of old wood, half buried in sand, shaped like part of a small boat. It was broken and useless now, but it showed that once long ago a boat had reached this place. Near the boat piece, he found a rusty tin box. He opened it carefully. Inside there were a few nails, an old spoon, and a piece of cloth so worn that it tore when he touched it. Still to Ravi, it felt like treasure. These things told him he was not the first human here. He carried the spoon and nails back to his camp. They could help him make better tools. He reached his shelter before sunset and used one of the nails to shape a sharp stick for catching fish. He spent the next few hours by the water, trying to catch something. His first few tries failed, but after waiting patiently, he finally caught a small fish. He cooked it over the fire and ate it slowly, feeling grateful. When the stars appeared, Ravi lay inside his shelter thinking about the old marks on the stone. Who had made them? Why had they come to this island? Were they also lost like him? His thoughts were full of questions, but he had no answers. Still, those marks made him feel less lonely. Someone had stood on the same ground many years ago and looked at the same sea. The next morning, Ravi woke early. The sky was bright and the air felt cool. He decided to go deeper into the forest. He wanted to know how big the island was and if there was anything that could help him signal for rescue. He packed a few coconuts and his knife, then started walking. The forest became denser as he moved farther. The trees were huge and the light barely touched the ground. He heard strange calls of birds and the rustle of leaves. The air smelled of earth and flowers. After walking for some time, he reached a small open space filled with sunlight. There he saw something surprising. A large tree that looked different from the rest. Its bark was smooth, and at the bottom there was a small opening like a cave inside the trunk. Curious, Ravi knelt down and looked in. The space was small, but it looked like something or someone had once used it as a hiding place. He found pieces of dry grass and some old wood inside. He also saw a round stone bowl, cracked but still strong. He took it out and cleaned it. It was useful for carrying water or food. Suddenly, he heard a sound from above and the flapping of wings. He looked up and saw a group of large birds flying together. Their feathers were dark and they made loud cries. He watched them fly toward the beach. Something about their direction caught his attention. They were circling above one area again and again, not far from where he had made his fire pile. He decided to follow them. When he reached the place, he saw something shining near the sand. His heart started beating faster. He ran closer and found a metal object half buried in the ground. He dug it out carefully. It was a piece of a boat engine, small but real. Maybe it had washed up from the sea after the storm. He searched the area and found more: broken wood, rope, and part of a metal frame. Ravi's heart filled with hope. If these parts came from a boat, maybe the fisherman's boat had not sunk completely. Maybe there were still chances of rescue. He collected the rope and some of the lighter metal pieces. He could use them to improve his shelter or make better fishing tools. When the sun began to set, he carried everything back to his shelter. He felt tired but full of energy inside. He had spent days fighting fear, but now he felt stronger than ever. The island was no longer just a place of danger. It was also a teacher. It was teaching him how to survive, how to think, and how to stay calm. That night he sat near the fire and looked at the stars. He remembered the city, his friends, and his small apartment. Life there felt so far away now. Out here, every moment was real. Every breath mattered. He felt proud of himself for surviving alone. As he was about to sleep, he noticed something strange near the trees. A faint light flickered for a few seconds and then disappeared. He rubbed his eyes, thinking maybe it was a reflection. But the light appeared again, this time moving slowly deeper into the forest. It looked like a small flame, like someone carrying a lantern. Ravi stood up, heart beating fast. "Is someone here?" he whispered to himself. The thought filled him with both fear and excitement. If there was another person, it could mean help, but it could also mean danger. He picked up his stick and followed the light carefully, keeping his distance. He moved quietly through the bushes, trying not to make noise. The light flickered again, and then it vanished completely. He stopped and listened. The forest was silent except for the wind. There was no sound of footsteps. After waiting for a few minutes, he slowly turned back toward his shelter. He was unsure if what he saw was real, or just his tired mind playing tricks. But deep inside, he felt something. He was not alone on this island. As he lay down that night, his mind was full of questions. Was there someone else hiding in the forest? Or was it just fireflies or moonlight between the trees? Whatever it was, Ravi decided he would find out tomorrow. He closed his eyes, holding the knife close, and whispered, "Whatever happens, I will face it." The waves touched the shore softly outside. The stars shone high above, and deep in the forest something, or someone, moved quietly in the dark. Ravi did not yet know that his greatest test of survival was still to come. The next morning came bright and silent. The sky was clear and the sea shone like a mirror. Ravi woke up early, his mind still full of questions from the night before. He could not forget the strange light he had seen deep in the forest. It was not lightning, and it did not look like moonlight. It had moved as if someone was carrying it. He sat near the fire and looked toward the forest. The trees stood still, hiding their secrets. His heart wanted to believe that maybe, just maybe, someone else was on this island, but another part of his mind warned him to be careful. He had learned that the island could surprise him in many ways. After eating a few roasted bananas, Ravi packed his knife, stick, and a coconut for water. He decided to follow the path where he had seen the light. The sun was bright now, so he marked the direction carefully. He walked slowly, eyes watching every movement between the trees. The forest was quiet except for the sound of birds and the wind moving through the leaves. He followed a narrow path covered with vines. The ground was soft, and sometimes he could see old footprints, but he could not tell if they were his or someone else's. As he walked deeper, the air became cooler and the trees grew taller. After some time, he reached an open area surrounded by rocks. It looked like an old campsite. There were pieces of burnt wood, broken shells, and a half-buried pot. Ravi knelt and touched the ashes. They were cold, but not too old. Someone had made fire here not long ago. His heart began to race. He looked around carefully, calling out, "And hello? Is anyone here?" Only the sound of waves far away answered him. He waited, but no one came. He searched the area and found a few things: a broken wooden bowl, an old rope, and something shiny under a rock. He moved the rock aside and found a small metal box. He opened it slowly and saw inside a piece of glass shaped like a mirror and a few dry matches. He smiled with relief. The matches were still dry, protected by the box. "Whoever was here, thank you," he said softly. These matches could save his life if his lighter stopped working. As he stood up, he noticed something strange on one of the rocks. More of those carved symbols, just like the ones near the cliff. They looked like drawings of waves, sun, and people, but this time there was also a picture of a boat with smoke coming from it. It looked almost like a warning or a story. He spent hours studying the area, hoping to find more signs of life, but found nothing else. As the sun started to set, he began walking back to his shelter. He walked fast because he did not want to be in the forest when it got dark. On his way back, he heard a faint sound and a soft rustle behind him. He turned quickly, gripping his stick, but saw nothing. He waited, listening carefully. There it was again, the sound of movement. His heart beat faster. "Who's there?" he called. His voice echoed through the trees. No answer came, but he felt like someone or something was watching him. He took a few slow steps backward, keeping his eyes on the trees. Then from the corner of his eye he saw movement, a shadow slipping between the trunks. He froze. The shadow was small and quick, like a person moving on bare feet. But before he could see clearly, it vanished. Ravi stood still for a long time, afraid to move. The forest felt alive, watching him. When he finally reached his shelter near the beach, the sun was almost gone. He quickly lit his fire and sat near it, holding his knife close. The warm flames gave him comfort, but his mind was full of fear and curiosity. Who was in the forest? Another human? Or had he imagined it? He stayed awake for hours, staring into the dark trees. The fire cracked softly. The waves moved slowly up and down the shore. His eyes grew heavy, and finally he fell asleep. In the middle of the night, he woke up again. Something had disturbed him, a soft noise like footsteps near his shelter. He sat up quietly, not moving. The fire had burned low and the light was weak. He could see only shadows. Then he heard the sound again and a slow crunch of dry leaves. Ravi's breath stopped. He held his knife tight, ready for anything. The steps came closer, then stopped. For a moment, everything went silent. He whispered, "Who is there?" No answer came, but the feeling of being watched was strong. Then just as suddenly as it came, the sound faded away. Ravi stayed awake until dawn, afraid to close his eyes. When morning came, he stepped outside to look for footprints. He found small marks near his shelter. Not animal prints, but shaped like human feet. They were smaller than his, maybe of a woman or a young person. That meant he was not alone. The thought filled him with mixed feelings. He was afraid, but he also felt hope. If someone else had survived here, maybe they could help each other. He decided to search again, this time following the direction of the footprints. He moved carefully, watching for signs. The prints led him through thick grass toward the hill near the cliff. He climbed slowly, using his stick for balance. The air was hot and sweat rolled down his face. When he reached the top, he looked around. The sea stretched endlessly in all directions. He could see the whole island from there. It was beautiful and wild. Then near a group of rocks below, he saw smoke, a thin line rising into the sky. His heart jumped. Someone was making a fire. He shouted, "Hey, I am here!" But the distance was too far. The sound of waves swallowed his voice. He waved his arms again and again, but there was no sign of movement. He decided to go down toward the smoke. It took him a long time to reach the area. The path was slippery and the rocks were sharp. When he arrived, the fire was still burning, but no one was there. He looked around and found simple items: a wooden bowl, some cooked roots, and a mat made of leaves. Whoever had been there had left in a hurry. He sat near the fire, trying to understand. Maybe the person had seen him and run away. Maybe they were scared of him too. He called again, "I am not here to harm you." But only the sound of birds answered. Ravi stayed near that fire until sunset, hoping someone would return. When no one came, he decided to leave a small gift, a few pieces of roasted crab wrapped in a leaf. It was his way of showing peace. Then he walked back to his camp before it got dark. That night, when he returned, he found something surprising near his shelter: a small shell necklace placed on a rock. It had not been there before. Someone had been near his camp again, but this time they left something instead of taking. He picked it up gently. It was handmade, tied with a thin string, decorated with colorful shells. It looked old but beautiful. Ravi looked around but saw no one. He smiled softly and whispered, "So you saw my gift?" For the first time in days, he felt less alone. There was someone else on this island watching him, maybe helping him from the shadows. As he lay down to rest, he looked at the stars above and held the necklace in his hand. The sea sang softly and the night breeze touched his face. He thought, "Tomorrow I will find them." The thought gave him comfort. His fear slowly faded into hope. Somewhere in the dark forest, another survivor might be waiting, someone who could change everything. Ravi closed his eyes, ready for the next sunrise, unaware that the next day would bring him closer to the truth about the island and the person who shared it with him. The morning sun rose gently over the island. The waves were calm and the air smelled of salt and flowers. Ravi woke up slowly, holding the small shell necklace in his hand. It was the first real sign that another human was on the island. The thought filled his heart with a mix of fear and hope. He sat near his fire thinking, whoever had left this necklace must have seen him, maybe even watched him from the shadows. They had also taken his gift on the roasted crab and left something in return. It felt like a message of peace. Ravi knew what he had to do. He decided to go back to the place where he had seen the smoke the day before. Maybe that person would come again. He packed a few things, his knife, his coconut bottle, and a small piece of fruit. Then he began to walk. The forest was quiet, filled with warm light from the morning sun. He followed the familiar path through the trees, past the rocky hill and down toward the open ground near the cliffs. Every sound made him alert. He felt that someone was watching him again, but this time he did not feel scared. When he reached the old fire site, the ashes were fresh. Smoke still rose slowly from the wood. Someone had been there not long ago. Ravi looked around and called softly, "Hello? I am not your enemy. I am lost here just like you." There was no answer. The forest only whispered back with the sound of wind. He waited patiently, sitting near the fire. Then from behind the rocks he heard a faint movement. Ravi turned his head slowly. A figure stepped out, small, thin, and covered with dried leaves and old cloth. It was a woman. Her hair was long and tangled, her skin darkened by the sun. She looked afraid but curious. Ravi stood up slowly, showing his empty hands. "It's all right," he said gently. "I will not hurt you." The woman stared at him for a long time, silent. Then she spoke softly, her voice rough and tired. "Who are you?" "My name is Ravi," he replied. "I was on a hiking trip. My boat crashed. I woke up here." She looked at him with surprise. "You came from the sea?" "Yes," he said. "I have been here for many days." "I thought I was alone," the woman hesitated. Then she stepped closer, keeping her distance but lowering her guard. "My name is Lena," she said quietly. "I was in a ship accident 2 years ago. The sea brought me here too." Ravi's eyes widened. 2 years? She nodded. "Yes, I have lived here alone since then." For a moment neither of them spoke. The sound of waves filled the air between them. Then Ravi smiled a little and said, "I am glad to finally meet someone." Lena looked at him carefully. "You made the fire near the beach," she said. "I saw your light many nights. I wanted to see who you were, but I was afraid." Ravi understood. "It's okay. I was also afraid," he said softly. "But now we can help each other." Lena studied him for a moment, then slowly nodded. She gestured toward the fire. "Sit. You must be hungry." Ravi sat near her. She offered him roasted roots and some fruits. He thanked her and ate slowly. The food was simple but delicious after many days of struggle. They talked for a long time. Lena told him how she had survived, how she had built a small shelter in a hidden cave, collected rainwater, and learned which fruits were safe to eat. She had even made tools from stones and shells. Ravi listened with respect. "You are very strong," he said. Lena smiled faintly. "When you have no choice, you learn to live." Together they walked to her cave, which was hidden behind thick vines near the cliffs. It was small but safe, with dry leaves for bedding and shelves made of wood for storing food. Ravi was amazed. "This is better than anything I made," he said with a laugh. She smiled. "You can stay here if you want. There is space for both of us." Ravi thanked her deeply. For the first time since the accident, he felt peace. No longer alone, no longer lost in silence. Over the next few days, they worked together to make their life easier. Ravi helped her gather more food, build a stronger roof for the cave, and improve the water collection system. Lena showed him where to find edible roots and how to catch fish using a trap made from bamboo. They learned from each other. Ravi taught her how to make fire quickly using the matches he had found. She showed him how to climb trees to get coconuts safely. At night, they sat near the fire, sharing stories of their lives before the island. Ravi told her about his job in the city, the long hiking trips he used to take on weekends, and how he had always dreamed of adventure. Lena told him about her love for the sea and how she had worked as a guide on a small ship before the storm changed everything. One night, while they sat watching the stars, Ravi said, "Do you ever think someone will find us?" Lena looked at the sky quietly. "Sometimes I hope," she said. "But after 2 years, I have learned not to wait. I live for today." Ravi nodded. "Maybe we can make our own way out someday." She smiled softly. "Maybe." The next morning, while collecting wood, Ravi noticed something unusual near the beach, a piece of metal shining in the sand. He picked it up. It was part of a broken radio antenna. His heart started beating faster. He called Lena quickly. Together, they dug around the area and found more pieces, metal boxes, wires, and an old battery. Lena gasped. "This must be from one of the shipwrecks," she said. Ravi checked the parts carefully. "Maybe we can fix this," he said with excitement. For the next 2 days, they worked side by side, using every bit of their skill. Ravi remembered enough from his days of repairing hiking tools to understand how to connect simple circuits. They used dry cloth to clean the metal and coconut oil to protect it from rust. Finally, on the 3rd day, the small radio made a faint sound, a crackle of static. Ravi's hands trembled. "It's working," he whispered. They adjusted the signal again and again until finally, a faint voice came through, distant and unclear but human. "Coastal Patrol. Checking northern route." Lena gasped and held her breath. Ravi pressed the button and spoke. "This is Ravi and Lena. We are stranded on an island. Please help." The signal broke, then returned weakly. "Repeat, stranded where?" "Coordinates?" Ravi shouted into the small speaker. "We don't know the coordinates. We are near a large island with a mountain and coral reef on the east side." The voice faded again, but before it disappeared, they heard one final message. "Stay near the coast. We will send search." Lena began to cry softly. For the first time in 2 years, hope was real. Ravi put his arm gently around her shoulders. "We are going home," he said with a smile. That night, they built a large fire on the beach, the biggest one they had ever made. The flames rose high into the dark sky. They watched it together, the orange light reflecting in their eyes. As the morning sun appeared over the sea, Ravi saw a small dot far on the horizon. It grew larger, turning into a rescue boat. Lena covered her mouth, tears shining on her cheeks. When the boat finally reached the shore, the rescuers waved and shouted. Ravi and Lena ran toward them, laughing and crying at the same time. After so long, they were no longer lost. As the boat moved away from the island, Ravi looked back one last time. The forest stood tall and silent, the sea shining softly around it. He whispered, "Thank you, island, for teaching me how to live." Beside him, Lena smiled. "And how to hope." Together, they watched the island disappear in the distance, a place of pain, courage, and survival that had changed them forever.